Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only podcast where a Lewis and a Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of Formula One and actually stay friendly during the season. My name is John, and I'll be your host. And with me is the man with the best hair in the business. And normally I would shout him out, but my voice is almost gone. It's none other than James Hazel.
Hello there. I'd ask how you're doing, but I know you're not doing very well.
Yeah, which means we have a special episode going today, though, because we'll be
Yeah.
covering two races in one episode.
Yeah.
Talking
So,
about being hyper efficient.
yeah, we'll try to be. We'll try to keep this one short as well to save your voice.
Cheers. If you're
And your
wondering why we
energy
didn't release a show last week, I fell ill. James and I went to Crete. Had a
Yep.
a good trip there, good event there. Came back, must have got something on the plane, I'm afraid. And fever keeps going up, keeps going down, keeps going up. It's a bit like Checo Perez in race pace.
Yeah, he's mostly down at the moment, though.
Definitely. Let's hope my fever goes down as well, though.
Yeah, hopefully.
So a little of apology in advance, but I'll try my best to make sure this sounds as good as I can. James.
Yeah.
Race number 7 and number 8 done. It was the Gran Premio della Made in Italy e della Emilia Romagna, a.k.a. Imola.
Well played. I can't believe you got that in one go.
And Monaco.
And Monaco, yeah.
Which was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Oh, shall I try to summarize both of the races this time?
Sure. Keep it short.
Have to make sure I made Imola really short, though. So
Yeah. It's old news at this point, but we've got to cover it since we missed it.
Exactly. So here comes my, I think, 30 seconds recap of Imola.
Go for it.
So Imola gave us a fight for the lead with Max holding off Norris by 0.7 seconds in the end. Checo returned to form with a P11 qualifying and a P8 finish. We saw some amazing pit stops, a 1.8 or 1.88 second pit stop by Red Bull, I think. We saw also a very negative pit stop, where like they forgot the wheel from the already unlucky Alex Albon. And my driver of the race actually was Yuki Tsunoda, although not very often mentioned, didn't seem spoken about in many of the podcasts. He came in 7th, splitting both the Mercs and continuing his amazing run. A track you can't really overtake on, but we actually did get some overtakes. I quite like this race, James. How about you?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. For a couple of reasons, really. The first one being that everyone seems to be bringing upgrades, because they often do when we get to the European leg of the season, or some of the European races, because I know all the Formula One's dashing off to Canada next. But some of those upgrades didn't really seem to produce anything on track for some people. Mercedes were just where they always are, despite some upgrades. Ferrari sounded before the race started like they were very confident of gaining a lot more pace from their upgrades, but they didn't seem to do too well with them. And McLaren seemed to have made a small jump, if in nothing else, than their tyre wear or tyre management, because Norris's final stint and the way he started gaining time on Max towards the end of that stint and the end of the race, I think that probably caught all teams by surprise, not least Red Bull.
Definitely led to some exciting last laps.
Yeah.
Was a very good race. Our title for last week's episode was, do we have a title fight on our hands? Well, we didn't make the episode. Do you think we have a title fight on our hands?
Maybe. I don't know. It feels early days. I think if anyone's going to be challenging Max for the title, I think it'll be Leclerc over Norris, assuming Ferrari maybe kind of keep up the pace that they and especially Leclerc showed in Monaco, but we'll get to that shortly, I suppose.
I could jump to Monaco though if you want.
Okay.
All right, let's do this. The Monaco, 1 minute, 2 minutes review.
Okay.
So Monaco, it's either chaos or an early nap. This year brought us both, with K-Mac bidding his car in lap 1, taking a Checo Perez who did amazing in a second brilliant race once again, starting in P18. And of course, K-Mac brought along his own teammate, Nico Hülkenberg. So if the disqualification from qualifying wasn't tough enough for both Haases, they didn't even make it past turn 2. Sainz almost didn't make it either, but got lucky because of the red flag, allowed him to refit the tires in the pit lane and restart in P2 as well. P3 actually, of course. The track was tremendously damaged after the crash, meaning they had to redo the whole fencing. And James, oh dear James, I wished they would have repainted it as well. So at least I could have seen the paint dry instead of trying to keep awake. With Charles dictating the pace in a negative way, but honestly, a smart way, going F2 speeds to save tires, we had the world's most expensive parade going through the streets of Monaco. And that says something about Monaco. We saw more camera cuts to Charles' girlfriend than that we had overtakes with 7-5. And although it did give us Charles his maiden win in his home country, but boy oh boy, am I glad we got this weekend done.
A little bit harsh.
I wasn't feeling well, mate. I had to
I know
fight a
you
fever
weren't.
to
I know
stay
you weren't.
awake, and this track didn't help.
No, I think I think the slow pace of the race
Or
was
did you mean I was
unfortunate.
harsh versus Checo? Because I can probably.
No, just in general. I mean, Checo not getting out of Q3 again. Interesting stat actually that we we saw at the end of the weekend was that Sargent has been out-qualified by Albon for his entire career so far, and yet he's out-qualified Perez 5 times. I mean, that says a lot
Out of
about
8
Perez.
races.
Sorry?
Out of this 8 races?
No,
Nah.
out of his career in his career in
Yeah.
Formula One so far. It's like 20 something races so far. Or is it 30? Whatever it is. Yeah, I thought Monaco was. I still thought it was an interesting race. It was a little bit tense, not quite like Imola was. Obviously, the pace was very, very slow. But there was a bit of kind of a question about tires, tire life. Yeah, that's probably all you can really say about the race.
Well, this was the point, right? For anyone that sort of missed it, the crash came, they got a red flag, and everyone changed tires during the pit lane break you got
Yeah.
there, which you are very much free to do. But that also counts like the mandatory switch between tires.
It does, yeah.
So if you can save your tires your old race, you don't even have to come in yet anymore, which we've seen happen before. But on Monaco, you don't need a fast car to actually win. If you're
No.
in the front, they can't surpass you anyways if you do it
Yeah.
decently. And I mean, people say, okay, I've seen some comments saying, yeah, but you can still overtake if your car's faster than the other car. Well, if you save your energy until you go into the tunnel, and you can get a little bit of a head start into the tunnel, there's just no way anyone can overtake you, if I'm honest. And that
Mm.
showed 100% clear. I saw Helmut Marko saying you need 4 seconds overspeed per lap
Yeah.
to make it
Yeah.
work. Max definitely had 4 seconds overspeed per lap over George Russell, and he still couldn't make it.
Yeah, because it's where that speed is made up over the other driver. And there's only really 2 overtaking opportunities, and that's going into turn 1 or at the bottom of the hill coming out of the tunnel. And if the driver that's driving slow is defensive in those 2 locations by not driving slowly there, like not obviously no lift and coast, being very aggressive on the throttle, getting out of the corner, and using their battery pack defensively for a boost out of the corner, then the straights are too short. DRS does nothing in Monaco. So Yeah, you can overtake, but you need a raw pace advantage throughout
Or
the
Sargent
whole.
in front of you.
Yeah,
Because he just let
pretty
people
much.
pass for some reason. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened there, but
but like it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It was probably quite a few years ago now that Ricardo won a race there, where the final felt like it was the final third of the race. He had no
sixth
battery
gear
power at
or
all.
something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, he was like massively down on speed, but he still just defended,
Yeah,
and that's been the case in Formula One for a long time. I mean, Mansell and Senna at Monaco, the exact same thing happened. And that was that predates DRS, that predates battery packs. That's just everyone kind of reminisces about that era of Formula One, but it was the same back then as well to some extent on certain tracks. And Monaco's one of those where if your pace advantage has to be considerable, or the person in front has to make a mistake.
yeah, but you won't
But
make a mistake when you drive 6 seconds a lap slower than you do normally.
well, I mean,
Well, I
tell
would, but I mean,
tell Stroll that.
you are picking the examples today, though. Starting
Yeah,
with Stroll, Sargent, Checo.
yeah. I think to be fair to Leclerc, he's had some sort of curse over him in Monaco for a long time. He's leading the race. He's managing the pace, but he's also got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. So, and he dealt with that pressure well. He was flawless all weekend. I think there was maybe only one session that he didn't top.
Yeah,
One of the practice sessions. I think Hamilton was maybe fastest in one of the sessions, was he?
yeah, FP2, I think, or
Yeah.
FP1. Yeah,
Other than that, Leclerc topped pretty much everything. That doesn't include Q1 and Q2 because I can't remember those, but the important one is Q3,
yeah.
and he topped that one because he started on pole. Um, so in some ways, I can understand the frustration with the slow race and how it panned out, especially because of the red flag allowing a tire change, and then that just removing the strategy element of the race for pretty much every driver on the circuit at that point, other than some of the people that started on mediums. Started on hards in first place and had nowhere else to go. Um, but you can't. I feel like you can't take away from Charles and how he drove that race and how he drove that entire weekend.
No, and
Um,
I agree there. Like, I think Charles is lucky that we got red flag. Because normally you have to decide those pit stops because something can go wrong during the pit stop. You
yep.
can you can get pressure applied to you by other drivers.
Yeah, you might get undercut.
Definitely. And although the undercut isn't necessarily strong in Monaco, it does apply some pressure, and they're fighting two
Yep.
McLarens who can apply some pressure. The
Yep.
issue is once the red flag hits, nobody's going to get in anymore, and he's driving as slow as he can.
Yeah.
Which, yes, he did perfectly, but on any other situation than what happened here on Sunday, he would have had to work very harder for it.
He would. Yeah, I agree with that.
So maybe this
But
was just a luck that he needed to lift this course.
maybe, yeah. And I hope that this has lifted a huge weight off his shoulders, and it improves his driving going forward because that's now one thing checked off his probably Formula One career to do list is to win his home race. He's done that, and he's got to take a lot of energy and positivity out of that, and hopefully that elevates him a little bit because I still think he is in. I don't think he's in quite in Max, and I still think Hamilton is very close. But I don't think Leclerc's quite at that level. I think he's like half a step down, and I think Sainz is at that same level with him. And then you go beneath that to get to say Lando, Russell, maybe Piastri as well in there as well.
Yeah.
If we're just talking about those sort of top tier drivers and how they're
I
very
forgot Alonso.
marginally.
Well,
Well, maybe as well, yeah. But this is, I mean, I'm talking about steps and stuff
I
down,
agree.
but I'm talking about just small differences in the drivers in that top sort of 5 or 6 drivers who are already the top drivers in the world. So that's not taking anything away from any of them. But yeah, I just hope this just propels Leclerc onto, I was going to say onto a good set of results, but so far he has been one of the most consistent drivers of the season. I think he hasn't finished outside the top 4 yet, which I didn't realise until this race, and that's actually a very, very impressive stat. 8 races into the season. 9
Yeah.
races, actually, is it? 9 now?
This was 8, I think.
Yeah, 8. So, okay, yeah.
Now it's starting. Now I'm doubting, of course, but I thought it was 8.
We'll go with 8.
Well, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia has 2, Australia, Japan 4, China, Miami 5, 6, Romania 7, Monaco 8. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he's had a great set of results, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I applaud him. Very happy for him as well. Here's a couple of questions. Is Red Bull outpaced, outgunned, and they're washed? Or is Red Bull a car that doesn't perform well on bumpy tracks? And are we just waiting till they go into proper European tracks to see the difference again?
I think that the Red Bull is very similar to last year in that it's got some bogey tracks that are bumpy tracks. The problem is they don't have the gap over the rest of the field that they had last year. So when they hit the tracks that they're not necessarily great at, actually the other teams do have a valid shot of beating them, basically. And I think that was proved this weekend in Monaco. And it's probably going to happen again at a couple of other street circuits. I'd imagine that we're going to get the exact same.
In Canada?
Canada maybe, but Canada's not quite as bumpy and it is quite fast and flowing. I think I think Red Bull will be in a similar situation to Imola in Canada.
Now here's my bet, because I saw Max avoiding every single curbstone in Monaco.
Yeah.
And if you want to go fast in Monaco, you need to hit the curbs, right?
Yeah.
Although Canada necessarily isn't a really bumpy circuit, it is one where you have to drive the curbs. Therefore, I'm a little bit worried about Canada for Red Bull.
Maybe, but this is, he was bouncing over the curbs at Imola, and he wasn't necessarily having any problems there, like going over the curbs on that chicane near the end of the circuit. So I think personally, at least, we'll see how it pans out.
You're the best predictor, yeah, so you're probably right.
I think Canada's just going to end up being very, very similar to Imola.
Which is cool. Give us a fight. I'm down for that.
I would hope that Ferrari do better than in Canada than they did at Imola as well.
Ferrari does seem to lack a little bit top speed on these tracks.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because there's a couple of very high speed parts to Canada. So
2 in a row, straight into the champions corner Wolf champions, and then into another straight. So
exactly, yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see there. Other question. Talk about Red Bull. Is Checo washed?
Yeah. I mean, there's conversations.
Because he's getting a contract extension.
That's the rumor. I don't know if that's finalized yet. It seems very likely. I don't understand why they're sticking with him, other than maybe to keep Max comfortable and not have a second driver that's, they maybe don't want a Vettel and Webber situation or a Hamilton and Rosberg situation. But the thing is, with keeping Checo, they're not getting a Hamilton and Bottas situation, which Bottas was far better for Mercedes than Checo's been or is currently being for Red Bull.
Yeah.
I mean, last season, that Red Bull was far and away the fastest car throughout the entire season, especially in Max's hands, obviously. And Perez just scraped by into second in the championship. And I think that says more about Perez than it says about Max, personally. Because Perez is he's just not in that league.
But James, he's the most wanted driver of them all,
Wanted for
according
what?
to his father. Okay,
Crimes against Formula One. um, yeah, I don't see why they're keeping him. I mean, if they want to secure first in the championship, in the constructors' championship, I don't think they can get away with keeping him now
Exactly.
because everyone else has caught up. And if they want to protect Max from any weak circuits where he might get ganged up on by two Ferraris or two McLarens, they don't have Perez to help him with
Say
the way he's
Canada
currently
next week,
driving.
for example, or Monaco past week.
I'd be very surprised if Perez finishes on the podium in Canada.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's an issue though, because it's Red Bull's now in 276 versus Ferrari 252. So that's
Yep.
24 points difference.
Yep.
They could be second in the championship after Canada.
Yeah, because Ferrari are on it this season to some extent, and if nothing else, both of their drivers have been super consistent. There hasn't been a DNF yet. I think both of them.
There have signs not participating. DNS.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Oh wait, no, that was Jeddah, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah. Behrman, where did he finish? He was like 7th or 6th.
Something like that, yeah.
He's
But
still
still, not
like
too bad.
12th in the drivers' championship. But other than that outlier, like every race that Charles and Sainz have driven, I believe they've finished in the top 5,
Yeah.
which is again, I mean that's how it should be at Red Bull with Perez.
Yeah, I think they have. The rumor that people say they don't want Checo to extend because Max, or they want Checo to extend because Max is confident with him having a second driver. I don't think Max cares at all who's second driver.
Well,
I don't see that. Like,
I don't think really. I think Max has basically said, "Put whoever you want in this car; they won't beat me," because he's
yeah,
that confident in himself, and he should be. I mean, he's aiming to be what, 4-time world champion at the end of this season, is it?
it would be nice to have a teammate that can help you out though, in tracks like this.
Exactly. Yeah,
And I
it
think
would be.
I
But
don't get why they didn't sign Sainz yet, or even why they don't put Yuki in the car. Although extending Perez's contract doesn't necessarily mean they can't put Yuki in that car.
well, that is true. I mean, look at the
Yuki's form,
situation.
though, James.
Yuki's having an amazing
Terrific.
season so far. He's scored more points already than he scored in the entirety of last season.
Yes.
8 races in, he's having a superb season. He finished 10th in Imola, scored a point for the team. In Monaco, did you say he finished 8th? Yeah, he finished 8th.
Yeah, he's got 19 points on his own.
Yep,
While the total score of the whole team last year was 25 points.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And we're 8 races in. We're
I
on the
think
third. So
they are helped a little bit by Alpine having a disastrous start to the season, and Williams having a very rough start to the season.
I mean,
certainly not
sure, but still.
certainly not as strong as last year, and even Aston Martin, they've taken a dip this year as well. So
Yeah, and Sauer is
th-
nowhere to be found. So.
yeah, so comparing season to season is difficult because the landscape has shifted slightly, but that doesn't take away from the fact he's having a good season.
True.
There's been some great results. There's been some really positive shout outs on the radio and stuff. They're all getting hyped up in the team. They're kind of riding that wave of positivity at the moment, and it's good to see, especially Yuki, because I've commented on his maybe sort of fiery personality at times, but
Fair, though.
it is fair. But I do want to see that change, and I want to see him do well because I do think he is a talented driver. He just needs to grow a bit more as a driver, I think.
Yeah, well, maybe give him a steady seat next to someone who you know he won't beat, but can learn from.
Yep. Yep.
Could have surprised people though. And at this point, I'm like, please just make sure. Like I know I'm very negative to Checo, right? Maybe I should highlight that a bit, but it
Yeah.
is because I do support Max, so I do support Red Bull.
Yeah.
And I can't stand the fact that whenever things get rough, Max is on his own, which
Yeah.
he does fairly well, be honest. But
Yeah.
I think, especially when you see it in Monaco, when you see it in Imola, if we had a driver as well in the top 3 or 4, he could have backed him up. So he could go for another set of mediums and
Yeah.
easier finish that race. So
Or he could have pitted early, sacrificed his race a little bit to undercut second place and hold them up for a little
exactly,
bit.
and still get a good performance while helping out your teammate and getting the team
Exactly.
up into World Championships. I think if you have a flying car like they have the Red Bull, you should be ashamed if you don't finish first. And I know already how this is going to end. That in the end, the last of the part of the season, they need a couple of points, and they expect Max to let Checo pass to get some points in, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's never going to happen. And so
No.
I can't see why they don't change the drivers just to save face already, because it will happen one day or another.
Yeah, I agree. I I I I don't know what the thought process is with Helmet, with Christian, and with the team in general.
You want to first name that base now with the team?
I mean, there's got to be a reason for it, and I don't know if there is some fear that Max is going to leave and they want to keep something kind of.
Then I would bring back Daniel. He's
They
been
would.
extremely vocal of getting Daniel next to him as well. So if they are thinking Max might leave, they should just put Daniel in the chair. That would definitely help.
Yeah. It's just whether they want to keep some sort of continuity, but I don't see
It's
how they
continuity
benefit.
with Checo in Europe.
Exactly. I don't see how they benefit from Perez's continuity personally, but there's got to be a reason for it, and it's obviously one that's not clear to us as we're talking about it now. But for whatever reason, they want to keep him, and we both think they shouldn't. And
it's a bit frustrating that you have 20 places in this championship, and you see guys like Checo performing weekly, like steadily. And I said at the start of these seasons, I'm not bashing him all the time, but I said at the start of the season, if he just finished like he does now, that's perfect for Red Bull.
yeah,
But it's been 2 misses in a row, and your competitors are catching up, so you can't really do much. You
yeah,
can't really afford that. And if I see Checo, if I see Kevin Magnussen this weekend, who should 100% get a race ban, this basically means you can do basically anything as long as it's lap 1, you won't get a ban for it anyways.
yeah,
If we do this on open lobbies or on a race, if we do this on iRacing games, we get banned.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Right? You basically can do it. Then you see Stroll coming in for fresh tires and just running it flat as well because he messes up on new softs. So the one lap he can actually push, he gets the soft, he hits the wall.
yeah,
You see Logan Sargent, who's able to get overtaken twice in Monaco without having a technical issue. And it just does my head in that we're watching these guys still drive in circles.
And I agree. I mean, when Perez first signed with Red Bull, I think it was a 1-year deal then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
it made sense.
It seemed. I mean, Perez wasn't really doing much before that, and it seemed like he was a stopgap. But they keep renewing him for single-year deals ever since, and
But now he wants a 2-year deal, James.
I'd be surprised if it gets a 2-year deal. He might argue for that, but I don't think he's really in a position to negotiate because if Red Bull don't keep him, where's he going to go?
Where is Sainz going to go now? If you can't go to one of the top teams, James, he's not going to Mercedes. Now what?
His option really is just that Audi deal. I think that's all that's left for him, pretty much. And it's whether he takes that on a short-term basis to then try and get try and make a move end of next year or the year after. Maybe he does a 1 or 2 year deal with Audi and leaves himself open to move, but I don't think Audi want that from him. The drivers' market is a very odd one at the moment because there are some high-profile drivers potentially hitting the market either this year or next year, but there's not a lot of space for them to go anywhere. Ferrari's locked in for the next probably 3 years or 2 years. McLaren don't have any intention of changing their driver lineup. I know Norris is locked in for a long time. Piastri, I'm not sure about, but
Probably after the Alpine spectacle.
exactly. Mercedes have got Russell. He's tied in for I think another 2 years, and then they have obviously they've got a Hamilton seat that's freed up this year, but they've also got Antonelli waiting in the wings, so they can't delay too much with him or they'll lose him, and they think he's the next Max Verstappen. So it's a very odd one at the moment, and I suppose some of that kind of might not really play out properly until we get the new regulations in 2026, and we figure out exactly who the top teams are for those regulations. I mean, you'd expect it to be Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, maybe McLaren, but who knows? Especially with an engine regulation change, because I'm not super confident that Red Bull's going to get that right first time of asking.
No, true. I'm just wondering, like, I know we hype up Antonelli, but he's not doing that great, is he? Have to.
No, he's not.
And sure, his tests were terrific. So were Daniels last year. So
Exactly, yeah.
don't know. This is a little bit different, probably. And
I know
I'm not watching F2 every weekend, to be quite honest.
Same.
But the times when I watch it, it's not like I'm seeing the next Ayrton Senna that's driving. So
No.
but he does get hype like this. So I'm sort of cautious to say that. But maybe get him into a Williams seat. That would work.
I mean that makes sense, but I don't think James Vowles is willing to have Williams play the junior role to Mercedes.
No, it's much better to just keep Sargent in your team.
Well, no. You've got Albon. That's fine.
Yeah.
He's locked in for a long time as well there.
I am also noticing that I'm kind of direct when I'm ill.
Yeah, just a bit.
Sorry. But I do mean it.
I know.
Well, we'll have to see. Well, James, I have to be honest. I've been trying to postpone the next part of the show, but I can't get away with it anymore. So, do we want to go into our predictions?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, please, he says.
I'm all about the predictions this week.
Our predictions. It would take both races now, though.
Yeah.
So, James, we went to Imola. And in Imola, let's just say we started off with the total score of, let me check, I think it was 12-13 in your advantage. Yes, 13 for you,
yeah.
12 for myself. Imola pole. Who got pole position in Imola?
Max?
Yes, you said it would be Max.
Yeah.
And I said it would be Leclerc.
Yeah.
That means it's 14-12 in your advantage.
Yes.
We both said Max would win. So that means it's 15-13 for us.
Correct.
And the first DNF was for K-Mac, you said?
Yeah.
And I said Sargent. And we neither got that one right.
No, we don't do very well on those.
No. So that's 15-13. But we had the bonus question. And the bonus question is where we ask a question that has to be answered by a number. And the one closest to that number wins the point.
Yes.
So I said, as a question for Imola, James, what's the fastest top speed in the sector getting measured? And how close can we get? I said 296.7.
Yeah.
And you said 298. Actually, other way around, you said 298 and I made something lower than that just to make fun of it.
Yeah, you stuck with the same top speed as the last time they raced there.
Yeah, something like that.
But the last time they raced there was 2021.
Yes. So, James, we were sitting in a tropical island
We
sitting in
were.
the sun,
Yeah.
getting some beers. And FP1,
We
FP1, lap 1, 310 kilometers an hour.
yeah, so we were sat in the bar area with a couple of friends on the Crete trip with your laptop watching practice one, and within 10 minutes, the fastest speed through the speed trap was over 300 kilometers per hour.
Yes.
And I just went, "Hey, I've won!"
Yeah, that wasn't my. That was a very bad prediction by myself.
Yeah.
It does mean that after Imola, you are ahead with 16 to 13. We didn't do a
Yes.
show, so we couldn't do the predictions publicly, which I don't think was fair if we did a number guess. So we don't have a bonus question for Monaco, but we did
No.
text each other our predictions.
Yes.
Pole position, James. We both said Charles Leclerc,
Yeah,
and we both got it right.
we did.
So 17 to 14. James, the winner, I said it was Alonso. Well, got that one wrong.
That couldn't go more wrong. The only way
No,
that could
that
have gone
was
more wrong is if you'd predicted Perez to win.
I actually prepared something for it, but I don't know if it works. But yeah, Alonso winning Monaco didn't work out.
No.
Leclerc winning, yes, it did work out. So GG's to you.
Yeah, just to clarify, because I don't think you said it, I did predict Leclerc to win.
You did predict Leclerc to win, yes.
Yeah.
Then something happened, James. We had the first DNF. I said Lewis Hamilton.
You did.
Because I thought he would take some risks, and not his fault, but probably get hit. Sainz got a flat, so I was text you like, hey, done. Sainz out, that's it.
Yeah.
Then at the back of the grid, our dear Mexican friend Checo got hit by K-Mag, making Checo be the first DNF officially. And the first DNF you predicted was for some reason Checo Perez, which means not only did you get that one right, but you got everything right this weekend, James. So
the first clean sweep. Yeah.
It also means you're ahead 18 to 14 after this week.
I feel a little bit bad, but it's just because you're ill. I feel bad.
Else you wouldn't feel bad.
No.
Oh.
No, it's all about the competition and I'm winning.
Hey,
I don't know why I predicted Perez, but as soon as he failed to get out of Q1, I thought...
Maybe there's two Haas that disqualifies and get hit them.
Well, I didn't predict that. I thought they were going to start from the pit lane because there was some sort of technical infringement there, wasn't there? And they had to
the gap for DRS was too large, basically, between the wing.
So I was expecting...
Which Steiner actually tweeted a message or Instagrammed a message with a tape measure. And he messaged, does anyone need a hand with that tape measure? Which is a pretty bold statement, I think, to your former team. Although it did make me knuckle a bit.
He's really riding the success of being a Formula One team principal quite hard at the moment. I don't know if you've seen in the UK, he's doing a tour of like an evening with him.
Can you blame him though? I mean, he's enjoying life. He's not coming back anytime anymore. It's
make hay while the sun shines and all that. But yeah,
you don't want to see which kind of tours I will be giving after we decide to pin this podcast after 1,000 episodes, though, James.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan of his, and I'm still not. And I mean, fair play to him. He deserves to try and make some money off it, I guess. Although he's probably got a decent amount of money anyway.
Got to keep that Miami house going, though.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that tweet, I suppose that was quite funny. What else was I going to say about that? Yeah, the surprise was them starting on the grid. I thought they were going to get a pit lane start for that, but they did start on the grid. And in our Discord, at the Formula One channel, for your Discord, which is for something completely unrelated to this podcast. So, but we have a Formula One channel there, and someone said it's probably better for the grid that they start at the back.
Yeah.
Literally 5 minutes before the race started, or maybe 25 minutes before the race started. And then 10
this
seconds
happens.
into the race, they wipe each other out and Perez. But it won me the prediction, so I'm somewhat happy about that, I guess.
That leaves us with our Canada predictions, James.
Yes.
I need to make up for this tremendous loss. So I was doing so good. I can still come back though at the end of the season, perhaps.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. We're only 8 races in.
Yeah, but there's
It's
already
a
a huge
long
gap. It
season.
feels like I'm fighting Max Verstappen here. Because all I need to do is be consistent. James, you can say this one first. Who's going to take pole in Canada?
I'm going to go with Norris.
Pole prediction, Captain. If you get this right, I'm out. You need to get a third host in. I'm going to go with Max. Who's going to win Canada Grand Prix?
I'm going with Max for the win.
I'll go for Norris for the win. I still think those curves will hit them way too hard. First DNF.
First DNF. Do we think Ocon's actually going to race in Canada?
Well, I wouldn't bet on Ocon, yeah. So he's got a penalty, a 5-place grid penalty for the next race.
He has, but there's rumours that he won't even be racing next weekend or next race as punishment for his shenanigans at Monaco, which were completely uncalled for. Because otherwise I would go with Ocon, but it feels a bit risky in case he doesn't actually do the race. So
We do have Stroll in Canada. Maybe he goes to Canada and just goes all the way.
I'm gonna go with K-Mag. It's between K-Mag and Sargent.
K-Mag seems to be a fairly safe bet these days.
Yeah, but so does Sargent. It's the way they're going at the moment. It's not super predictable. It's almost like predicting Max for the win. It's a bit.
All right, here it goes. Piastri. Yes. He starts in fourth. It means he starts on the right side of the track, which means the first track turn goes left.
Yeah.
He goes to the outside. He wants to cut inside. He gets hit by Sainz on his tire, and this does not finish.
Okay. If it pans out that way.
If it does, it's still good. 2 seconds.
If it pans out that way, you can then give me the winning national lottery numbers.
So I go with Piastri. James, our bonus question. Did you get anything in? Do you have anything in mind? Or do you need me to stall some more?
No, I think I'm just going to go with one which might actually be one we've gone with before.
Sure. Pretty original, Captain.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember if we have, so I'm just going with it. But I feel like Canada has the potential for a lot of overtakes, especially down that back straight with DRS. Like, DRS is super strong at this circuit. So
that is a safe bet.
I want us to guess how many overtakes there will be at the Canadian Grand Prix. And I haven't looked anything up on this beforehand, so I don't know how many there were last year.
Last year was so I don't know the numbers. I can take a guess, but I might be horribly wrong on air. But I remember last year being a drought of an overtake for the race.
Yeah.
Like someone being the lowest overtaker, lowest even than I think, was it lower than Monaco last year? I think it was lower than Monaco last year.
It might have been. But traditionally, the straights provide an opportunity for overtakes, especially once pit stops start happening and strategies are different and things like that. So,
and I need to name the first number, right?
Yes, you do, yeah.
Here we go. 33.
33, okay. To make sure we don't have a situation like last time.
You're going to go with 34.
Where there ends up being a number right in the middle. I am also going to pick an odd number.
67.
I think that's how that works. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with 25.
I just saw last year's number, so now I'm a little bit worried.
Oh, no.
The last 2023 Canadian Grand Prix had 20 overtakes. 19 of these were shown on live broadcast. 2022 had 35 overtakes. That would be
Yeah.
my advantage. 2019 had 30 overtakes. 2018 had 15 overtakes. The circuit average in the hybrid area is 31. And it
Ooh,
is lower than Monaco.
so the average, actually, I think
It's very close to 30.
This is going to be very interesting because the average is very close in the middle of your prediction and mine.
Yes.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
Perez overtook one car. I think next prediction is going to be for me. How many cars can Perez overtake?
Yeah.
And I still appreciate the fact that he is the driver that overtook most cars in last season. In the fastest car.
Where he was in the
back.
fastest car and he screwed up qualifying very regularly. So he had a lot of opportunity to do overtakes.
I do think we had a safety car last year as well, by the way. So that did make a difference.
Yeah, it's fairly common.
It's a one-stop. It can be a one-stop as well. Tire wear ain't that high. I think we have new surface now, Canada.
I'm not sure, but it'll depend on which tires they take as well. Because this year they've tried to, or they've tended to go like a step softer than they have the previous year.
Yes,
so
which is good.
It is good, yeah, because there is still the potential for like a one-stop circuit to remain a one-stop circuit, but it does mean that a two-stop is more viable than it would have been on the harder tires. So it throws strategy into the air a little bit, which is good.
Fair point. James, we got one sending question before we close this show. Question for the pod from Neurozic, our dear friend Oystein, all the way from Norway, says, how can they make the Monaco Grand Prix more exciting going forward?
I think that would take some kind of catastrophic event that would allow them to then rebuild Monaco and change the layout.
Well, they have there's room actually to redo the track. There's been room since 2011 when some ground got bought up as well.
Yeah,
but it's too historic to change it around.
They're not going to change the layout. No, because
so there's room to do that, but that's not going to happen. I do think if it could just maybe stop with the red flag. You can, like, if you say red flag, you can change the tires, sure, whatever you want, but it doesn't count as the mandatory pit stop. That would fix a lot of issues, generally speaking.
The only problem with that is there could be situations that would ruin a team's race as well. So, for example, a red flag right near the end of the race, and a team has, like, was it Albon recently in the last couple of years, and certainly Rosberg did it, I believe, in Russia, where he basically went the entire race on one set of tires. Yeah. I think in Rosberg it was kind of a flip. He flat spotted his tires on the first lap, changed his tires, and then did the entire rest of the race on one set of tires. But if you imagine a situation where someone's doing the opposite to that, which I think Albon did in the last 2 or 3 years, I can't remember where it was, where he went almost the entire race on one set of tires, changed the last lap. If you don't allow the mandatory pit stop to happen during a red flag, and the red flag happens in the last 2 or 3 laps, and someone's doing something like that, the race is just completely over.
You can still say, okay, when it happens in the last 5% of the race, then it does count or something.
Maybe.
But anyways, we're making such a big deal out of an outlier circuit, which an outlier result, which we also had some good races in the past, if anything happened. Because if this would be a normal race, we had 2 teams in the top 4 fighting, and we had some pit stops, this could actually be a very good race. So
yeah, if this was any other circuit, especially, well, particularly any circuit that actually is okay to overtake on, that red flag wouldn't have mattered, because however people tried to change their strategy, some other teams would have had opportunities to counter that. So Leclerc driving slow to save his tyres, he would have opened himself up to be overtaken. Or the other team just does a pit stop and then tries to catch him up and then overtake him on track.
Just a bad luck track for now.
It is. I mean, I suppose maybe one way of doing it is if the red flag happens in the first, say, 3 laps, it doesn't count to your mandatory pit stop. But
still, it normally wouldn't make a difference, except in Monaco either. So,
but the other thing is the same could happen at any other time during the race at Monaco. Like, that red flag could have happened on lap 10 before anybody had pitted, and then they all just do their pit stop.
But if it happens on lap 20, you got an interesting race. So,
well, it would be, yeah. But
fair enough.
What was Max's quote about ifs? And his mother, I think it was.
That is definitely true.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
Fair point.
I mean, you've got to think about the ifs, because if you're going to come up with a new situation or a new set of rules, you have to think about how, if you're trying to fix one problem, you have to think about what problems it might create. But
I also have something I'm suddenly realizing, that you can't save tires for the situation that if a red flag happens and it does not count as a mandatory pit stop, you still have to make that pit stop. So you got to save an extra set always every week. Yeah, it goes fair.
There's a lot of, it's just difficult. It's
Last question.
To fix.
Do you think Checo or K-Mac drove a boat into the harbor of Monaco?
What?
Did you see the speedboat crash?
No.
In the Monaco harbor?
I did not see that, no.
We'll leave a link in the description, because during qualifying, there was a speedboard. I think it's a speedboat, but I'm not a big boat fan. There was a boat in the harbor that accidentally sped up and actually crashed into the harbor.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it could have been Perez. He was out of qualifying very early.
Exactly. So that's what Captain Perez trying to get out of the track.
I just want to give a shout out to that photographer that got injured in that crash.
Great photos.
Well, he's apparently okay.
That's why I got kidding. If he wouldn't, I wouldn't be kidding.
I just wish him well with the rest of his recovery. If there is a rest of his recovery, or her, I don't know who they are or how badly injured they were, but that just kind of goes to show that Formula One, even as a spectator or a marshal or somebody not in a car, can still be dangerous.
Yeah.
And just glad that they're okay, and hopefully they're back to doing what they do very, very quickly if they're not already.
Definitely. All the best. James, see you in 2 weeks after the Canadian Grand Prix, which is driven for us, I think, very late on the day.
Yes, it is, yeah.
I think my voice should be recovered by then. If not, we might need some help.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure you'll be okay. I hope you'll be okay.
Thank you very much, James.
Yeah, cheers.
See you in 2 weeks.
Definitely.
See you then. Of course, if you're listening to this, if you like this, give us a thumbs up, a subscription, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or send us a message that you do appreciate us doing this, even though my voice sounds as hell today. See you around. Bye-bye.
See you later.